All right, good morning. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Leah Fochuk. I'm the HR Consulting Services Manager at Sept and Associates. I'm also one of their senior HR consultants. Today we're going to be talking about aligning business and people plans. Before we get started, though, I just want to let you know there are a couple of handouts that we'll be referring to in your packages. So first, you'll see this one. It's HR metrics, what to measure. And then we've got another one, aligning business and people plans. It's just a summary of what we're talking about today. And then we've also just got information on our not-for-profit HR program as well. And you can read all that one after. So maybe just before we get started, you've heard a little bit about us. Maybe I could just hear a little bit about you. Maybe just let me know your name, the company you're with, and the role that you play. I'll start here.
I'm Brittany Stelmack. I'm with the 2019 Canada Winter Games office in Red Deer. And I'm administrative assistant and also taking care of HR for our organization.
Excellent.
I'm Karen Fabric. I'm Director of Regional Operations for Junior Achievement, Southern Alberta, so this is our boardroom.
Excellent. Okay.
I'm Dorothy Rockwood for Employment Business Services in HR and Administration.
Excellent.
Linda Outley, I work for Employment Placement Support Services as well, and HR and
Excellent.
I'm Sheila Marshall. I'm with the Phone Experts and HR Generalist.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Gwen, and I am the Regional HC Manager for Central Alberta for Energy.
Okay.
I'm Chelsea Tannehill. I'm the Operations Manager at Chandler Consulting. We do drug and alcohol and workplace occupational health testing. And in that last slide, definitely I've kind of rolled into HR and make it up as I go along.
Fake it till you make it.
My name is Leanne. I'm with Central City Asphalt. It's our road builder out of Black Falls. I started there a couple of years ago doing safety, and they don't have an HR department, so I'm kind of learning that side of it.
Excellent. Okay.
Mike Goodwin. I'm at the South Canadian Tire Store, really close here. My role is assistant GM.
Okay.
And this is my colleague.
I'm Violet. I'm assistant GM at the Canadian Tire here of Retail.
Excellent. Welcome.
I'm Natalie. My husband owns React Marketing. I'm the operations manager, and I do all finance, all operations, and all HR.
A little bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good. Well, excellent. Welcome. So as I talk to you today about aligning business and people plans, I'm going to talk a lot about being strategic in your role. Okay, so, and whenever I think about strategy, I always think about games. So think about chess or poker, right? So in order to be successful and in order to win, you have to play strategically, right? And so I would say that business is very similar to that. So I'm going to today to urge you to think about your organizations in terms of a poker game. Okay, so everyone sitting at the table, those are going to be the key players in your organization. So that's going to be your CEOs, your CFOs, your COOs, EDs, right? And now for a minute, I want you to think, okay, there's an empty seat at the table. Who are you going to fill that seat? Well, a smart organization is going to fill that seat with other strategic players in your organization. Right? Because it's the strategic thinkers that are actually driving the organization forward and ensuring the organization's success. So as we talk today at the end of the presentation, I really want everyone to be able to walk away with some tips and tools about how you can be more strategic in your role and fill that seat at the table. Or if you're at that seat, how can you be more effective in that role using these tools and tips? Okay? So just about the agenda, we're going to start today by explaining to you a little bit what I mean about applying strategic thinking to your role. And we're going to use the role of human resources as an example. So and as we go through that example, we're going to sort of talk about traditional HR versus more strategic HR. Okay. And then we're going to talk about programs and processes that strategic employees can bring to the table that add value to the organization. And then we're going to identify ways that we can ensure that we have a strategic advantage. Okay. It's important to start off by discussing how traditional roles have evolved to be more strategic. And a great way to demonstrate that is through HR. And we have a lot of HR people in the room, or people who are filling an HR function. So this is great. So basically, first and foremost, the management and administration of an organization's peoples and programs. These are things that traditional HR is in charge of, right? Recruitment, compensation, benefits, employee relations, policies and procedures, legislation. They should also be experts on talent management, so making sure that you have the right people in the right positions. Change management, experts on organizational effectiveness and organizational development. Overall, it's your role to be the people expert, right? So how is this different from strategic human resources? So these people have a deeper understanding of the business plan, the strategic plan. They're looking at the business from different facets, not just with an HR focus. They're focused on relevant business challenges and, more importantly, opportunities. Ways that they can develop the organization, ways that they can add value. You'll probably hear me say that a lot. They are measurement and results focused, so they like to know what's going on, they like to measure it and track it. When they request approval for a new program, they understand how that program supports the organization's business plan, the big picture. They have a calculated return on investment. So for instance, I'm your HR department. You come to me and you say, you know, I need to start up or create a social media and communications group. So I'm coming to you for HR. I need you to help me put this group together. So I say, a traditional HR person would say, yeah, absolutely. Okay, tell me what your budget is, what you want the salaries to be. You know, I'll put out the job postings. I'll recruit a team for you. Great. Strategic HR is going to take it to the next level. And we're going to come back to the table and we're going to say, what's your return on investment? So we've invested this amount, X. So say it's $150,000 into putting this team together. And we're going to look at some sort of specified indicators, and we've calculated that this is your return on investment. So your $150,000 investment has created this much value for the organization, right? So we're going to, like I said, we're taking it to that next level. We're going to use that information to analyze and evaluate our business decisions. So I often say that I don't do fast food human resources. Has anyone ever heard of that term before, fast food HR? No? So as a consultant, you're often called into an organization because someone has an immediate need. You know, so-and-so quit, I need you to fill this position like yesterday, right? So it's the quick fix. But as a consultant, that's really not my role. I mean, I can do the quick fix and I'm going to help you with that. But I have to wear a little bit more of a strategic hat, right? So for instance, I had a client and he called me up, same thing, 5 open positions. I've had 5 people quit in the last month. I need you to help me fill these positions, right? Turns out these 5 positions are all in one department. So yes, I can help you fill these positions, but I'm going to look at the bigger picture here, right? Why have 5 people left? What's going on, right? Is it your competition? Are they just paying a lot more? Is it the compensation? You know, maybe it's your manager. Maybe your manager is driving these people out. Maybe it's a workload issue, right? Maybe they're just too busy and it's too stressful and they're just saying, screw it. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe they're not busy enough. They're not engaged. They don't like their job. They're not doing what they want to be doing, right? Maybe from a budget perspective, do you actually need to recruit for 5 positions? So there's a lot of different things that you can look at and should look at, right? So it's not just about the quick fix. So these are ways that you can, again, add value to the organization. So we're going to look at the competencies for strategic HR. And first of all, we've got leadership, business acumen, accounting and finance, risk management, and talent development. So when we first look at leadership, the next slide. So defined as the activity of leading a group of people or an organization, or the ability to do this. So now, before I go into this list of competencies of a leader, I want every one of you to just visualize in your head or think of someone who's a great leader, right? So whether that's Steve Jobs, Barack Obama, Richard Branson, or maybe someone in your life, like a mentor you've had, or someone that you think of as a good leader. I always like to do that because when I talk about different leadership competencies, I just think it's always nicer or easier to kind of relate that to someone and see how they've done it and think, you know, do they have that? Did they do that? So great leadership involves establishing a clear vision, communicating that vision, sharing that vision with others so that they will follow willingly, providing the information, knowledge, and methods to realize that vision, coordinating and balancing the conflicting interests of all members and stakeholders. So a leader steps up in times of crisis. They're able to think creatively in difficult situations. So they're able to think outside the box. Business acumen. So understanding the business. So as strategic HR, if you're able to help make decisions about the business, you have to really first understand the business, right? You have to understand the profit and loss statements, what's driving revenue, knowing what aspects of the finances employees can control, and have an understanding of return on investment. Okay? Risk management. It's about identifying, assessing, and prioritizing risks, then implementing procedures to help mitigate, monitor, or minimize their impact. So as HR professionals, you have to have an understanding of all business risks and then the risks that are directly associated with the people side of your business. And I would say for anyone in HR dealing with HR issues, because we're dealing with employment legislation, mitigating risk is a huge part of your job. Something that you always have to be considering, right? At the end of the day, what's the outcome? If someone, are you in line with legislation? Okay, and talent development. So strategic HR is about bringing on talent that is in alignment with organizational objectives, enhancing productivity, increasing workforce agility, identifying and developing high potential individuals, and retaining top talent. So when someone quits and we have to replace them, there's a cost to that, right? So our job is to ensure that we keep the good people in good positions, and we're there to help support the organization's growth.
Can you define what you mean more specifically about workforce agility?
So previously we were talking about people working in silos, right? So maybe that involves like cross functional training, so that if you have to downsize and you have to change that structure, that you have people who know what's going on, that people can work together. Just even in terms of changing times, right? Keeping your workforce trained and up to date so that they're able to roll with the times, I guess, right? Okay. Okay, so next slide. So we're going to consider a scenario here. The CEO announces to the senior leadership team that costs have to be cut by 10% within the next month. A plan needs to be developed within the next week, and cuts need to be made by the end of the month. So what is HR's role in this situation, and how do we add value? So first we're going to look at this from different perspectives. So in a traditional HR role, there we go, okay. It's more administrative. You're collecting metrics and measurements, you're working to achieve goals and objectives, following the policies and procedures. You're very employee focused. You work on the recruiting and the selecting, and you work within the organization's culture. In a strategic HR role, you're the one doing the planning. You're in the meetings. You're not just collecting, but you're analyzing those metrics and measurements. You're setting the goals and objectives. You're interpreting, establishing, and revising those policies and procedures. Your focus is the organization, not just the employees, right? You're doing the workforce planning, and your goal is to improve the culture, not just work within it. Okay? So again, it's just taking it to that next level. So in this situation where we need to cut our budget by 10%, a strategic person might ask the following questions. What can an organization stop doing without impacting the long-term strategy? What does the organization need to start doing in order to save costs, but also stay focused on the long-term strategy? What can be shelved in the short term in order to cut costs, but still deliver to the long-term plan? Because that long-term plan is the vision of the organization, right? It's the big picture. So everything you do is going to be funneling into that. So what does the HR department need to stop or start doing to cut costs in the short term, but still stay well positioned in the long term? So for many of us, the strategic HR is truly the desired state. It's probably not where a lot of organizations are. Otherwise, there wouldn't be consultants like myself, right? But the benefits of strategic thinking applies more than just to HR, right? It applies to multiple different, for every function within an organization, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more generally about what it means to be strategic. Next slide.
There.
Oh, we're there? Oh, perfect, great. Okay, so avoid falling into autopilot mode. So just providing those quick fixes, right? It's not just about that. You've got to think bigger picture. You have to, have an overall big picture, business understanding, and make sure your initiatives are linked to that big picture. To be a strategic thinker, you've got to be specific about your initiatives and ensure that they're grounded in results, in metrics, in those measurement tools, right? You're not just collecting data, but you want to understand it, right? Question your results. What does the data tell me? Use that information to guide your decision making. Next one. Right. So to be strategic means you have to understand your investments, impact, outcomes, risks, consequences. You have to understand your environment, recognize and evaluate threats, potentials, and opportunities. You need to visualize the future. What are the possible positive and negative outcomes, right? Communicate your initiative and commit. Being strategic means evolving your role to meet changing needs and always consider what adds the most value. Okay, so on the next slide, I was going to do a little exercise with the group, but I think just in terms of time, we might not have time for it. So, but these are just some questions that I think you need to ask yourself in each one of your roles. So they're here to sort of guide you, and I just think, afterwards, definitely take a look at them. Because again, it's applying this thinking, this strategic thinking to the particular role that you're in, right? So how can you add more value to the organization? So we're going to go to the next slide. So now we're going to talk about some programs and processes that we can use that can add value. So we're going to talk about two in particular. One is called the Balanced Scorecard. Has anyone ever heard of a balanced scorecard or used it? Yeah? Okay, great, perfect. And then we're going to talk about key performance indicators because they go hand in hand. Okay, so the Balanced Scorecard is a strategic planning tool used to align business activities to the vision and goal of the organization. It's used to improve internal and external communication, to monitor organizational performance against strategic goals. So I'll show you an example in a moment of what a balanced scorecard looks like, but it's a fairly easy and straightforward tool that really helps guide that whole planning process. So the intent of the Balanced Scorecard is to ensure that strategic initiatives undertaken by the organization address 4 key areas of the organization that are critical for long-term success and achievement of the organization's vision. So what are those 4 areas? Financial, customer, internal processes, learning, and innovation. So these 4 areas provide a balanced view of the organization. The Balanced Scorecard focuses leaders and employees to work on those areas that are important to the organization and with regular reporting of key performance indicators, which we'll talk about in a sec, the organization can quickly evaluate their progress. So with the balanced scorecard, all members of the organization can be more focused on the areas that are driving performance and adding value. So here's the example of what a balanced scorecard looks like. So in the very middle, and if you can't really see it, you can refer to the slides that you've got, but in the middle is the organization's vision. And again, this is important because everything that you do is really, like I said, feeding in and driving that vision. So before you do any strategic planning, if you don't have a vision statement, that should be step number one, is define what that is, define your vision. And if you work in your organization and you don't know what your organization's vision is, then you need to figure that out, right? Find that out, because everything you do needs to feed into that. Okay, so at the top we've got financial. So financial performance, their measures indicate whether the company's strategy, implementation, and execution are contributing to the bottom line, right? Because it's all about the bottom line. You need to stay afloat. So the financial portion is obviously very important. Customers. Customers' concerns tend to fall into 4 different categories. That's time, quality, performance, and service, and cost. And then we're going to look at internal business processes. Internal business process allows owners to know how well their business is running, and they're focused on safety and quality. And then learning, growth, and innovation. So a company's ability to innovate, improve, and learn ties to the company's value. That is only through keeping up with advancing technologies, creating more value to our patient clients, customers, and improving operating efficiencies continually to increase revenue. Okay, next slide. So next I'm going to introduce you to key performance indicators, so KPIs. Has anyone worked with these? Yeah? Okay, great. So a key performance indicator is a measurable value that demonstrates how effectively a company is achieving its business objectives. So organizations will use KPIs on multiple levels to evaluate their success at reaching their targets. So when you put the two together, this is what a balanced scorecard looks like. So here you have each of the different areas, and then you're going to have 3 KPIs under each area. So 3 under learning, growth, and innovation, 3 under customer, 3 under internal business process, and 3 under financial. Okay. You can go to the next one. Okay. So if we look, for instance, as an example, learning, growth, and innovation, it might look like this. So a KPI might be professional development. So organize and provide staff ongoing professional development and educational learning opportunities. So what's our measure? We're going to measure the number of professional development presentations or workshops that we offer to our staff within a 12-month period. What's our target? Well, perhaps in our strategic planning sessions, we decided that 10 professional development sessions per year was a good number. And how are we going to measure that? The office manager will present the number of educational opportunities from June 2015 to July 2016 at the management meeting in July 2016. And any comments, so we want to strike a balance between the technical, and leadership or HR-based topics. So this is what it would look like to fill in, one of those KPIs. And then you're held accountable to this over this 12-month period. That's kind of how it works. So you'd fill that in for each one of those various areas. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we are going to do a little exercise because we do have some time. So I just want everyone to kind of get at your tables or into groups of 2 or 3. I want you to talk a little bit about each in your organization. What are some of the KPIs that you are either currently measuring and we've got a couple questions here that you could actually, sort of prompt you through or guide you through. But just, in these small groups, just discuss back and forth what some of those actual KPIs are. Okay? Yeah, so we'll just take about maybe 5 minutes to do that. Everyone had a chance to maybe jot down a few of the different KPIs that you might use within your organization. Yeah? Okay, we are going to take a moment to go and I'm going to ask you about them and you can share with the group. Maybe they're so some of the commonly used ones, or maybe they're just unique to your organization, but I think it's going to be good to have a reference point so everyone have some good ideas. So we'll start here at this table.
Well, because we're both nonprofit organizations and charities, registered charities, so we have different KPIs, but a lot of them were the same because we're looking at, number of clients or for us, for JA, it's the number of students we reach, where they're coming from, are they urban or rural? How many schools are we partnering with? How many volunteers are engaged in our organization and where are they coming from? And then, of course, revenue streams, and we talked about diversity of donor sources and things like that.
Right. Excellent. Same.
Yeah. We're very similar. We're actually just getting ramped up on creating our KPIs.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
But yeah, it's with the nonprofit model, it's a little bit different, especially for you don't have sales targets or anything per se.
Right.
You do have, say, volunteer engagement and corporate engagement and stuff like that.
Right. I just realized I'm supposed to pass the microphone around so that they can hear this. All right.
It's fine. We'll just talk loud.
Okay. But I'll just hold it up.
We're kind of in the same boat, I think, as these ladies. We're a nonprofit organization, and so the services that we offer are on the more social end of the spectrum. And so a lot of the things that we need to be looking at and that we are looking at are in regards to engaging our employees, absenteeism, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we need to start tracking a little bit better are training, setting of goals. What are we trying to achieve with training? Social return on investment, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're going to, put money into a program, put money into something like training, you want to be sure that you are getting a return on investment, right? So it's valuable to measure those things. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that term or that saying. It was like, what gets measured gets done. And so I think that's always, when you're goal setting, that's always an important thing, right? To think about what's the measurable part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, Sheila didn't share much because I took over, like always. I work for an accounting firm, so we measure everything.
Right, yeah.
We measure everything to the 12-minute mark. But that also gives us a lot of opportunity to analyze the data, right? And so for me, I'm a part of a very large firm. We break all of our regions down into size so that we can compare and contrast between other regions of similar size and similar clients. Things that we measure are like utilization, which is your total billable time over your total available time, your realization, how much we're actually realizing, how much we're actually billing and receiving on those bills. We measure our education hours, and then we can also compare that with, like, for example, new clients. So let's say we're not bringing in as many new clients as we did last year. What we can do is we can up those courses, and then we don't just have courses, but we also have measurables outside of those courses.
Like what?
Like after, like it's instead of just taking the course, putting the binder, throwing it on the shelf.
Right.
So for example, with new clients, we have a focus group where you have to buy in. So that might be, I promise to bring in 5 new clients within the next quarter, or a value of clients within the next quarter. And then you get to be part of a little bit more elite group that can work to bring in new clients. And so what we call those people are finders. And so they're just the different type of person, right? Like I would be a finder. I go out and find new employees. And so like a little bit more extroverted, maybe, don't have problems asking for business. Whereas there's other people who would like be terrified if you asked me to do that.
Yeah.
I would much rather just do the work. You bring in the work, I'll do the work.
Right.
Right? So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Well, we have, basic targets, like your sales targets and customer satisfaction targets. And we have targets that we're a TELUS authorized dealer, so we have big targets that we have to meet within TELUS, or we get things, of course, taken away from us or given back to us accordingly.
For your customer satisfaction targets, can you sort of give me an example of what that might look like?
Well, it would so again with TELUS. TELUS often will contact you. I'm sure you've all had TELUS contact you after you've been in our store. So
right at dinner time. Yeah.
Yes, they like to call you at 5:00. I'm sorry. So we would be measured on anything that they would ask, but then we would have some internal targets that they would have to, like if we contacted them or they have, whether we contact them, email them, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sadly, I don't think we really formally measure anything.
Oh.
Yeah, we really don't. We, financial information, looking at that, but yeah, we don't really formally measure anything. It's kind of freaking me out.
Yeah. So do you think after, at the end of today, is there something that you think, like something that comes to mind that you think, I'd like to start measuring this? I think this would actually be helpful in helping me determine if there's, if this is adding value or not.
Definitely. Yeah. I've been trying to discuss with the owner measuring customer satisfaction or having a little bit more interaction with them about that. Meeting a little bit of resistance.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to get there. I'll have to go back and think of some things to measure.
Yeah. Well, actually, in the handout that we've given you, it actually does have some ideas on what you should be measuring, how you should be measuring, that kind of thing. So
I think that's tricky, the how to measure. Like, there are definitely things I'd like to know about how do I go about measuring it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a lot of discussion with my staff about, are you happy? How are things going? But to actually measure it, I guess that word I'm finding challenging.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. We can definitely chat more too.
Okay.
Well, financially, they measure everything in the company, but that's not my department. I measure safety things like incidents, accidents, compare throughout the year, WCB claims, whatnot, our expenses there. But in regards to HR, I think I'd like to start measuring turnover, retention, stuff like that, in something measurable. So I can say, 10 people left, but I don't really know the cost of that, or how much it costs to retain or to hire and retrain people. So that's something that I'd like to start figuring out how to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now, I don't even really know how to track that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the thing is people, when you don't track it, and say you do have a lot of turnover, you're not even aware necessarily of the costs, what that costs in terms of, the time it takes to hire, interview, put out job postings, all of that. There is a cost to that. And when it's not right in front of you, you're not necessarily aware, right?
Yeah, and then you're doing the quick fixes, right? You're hiring the first person that comes to you with some sort of qualification that will match that job. Doesn't mean the person's right fit for the job, but you take them because it's all you have. Yeah. Because you've left everything till last minute, right?
That's right. So, fast food HR, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we do lots of that fast food. But our two businesses were quite a bit different. Like hers is more like the billable hours, like the accounting firm. But our biggest measuring stick is wage cost. And productivity. And the productivity can be broken down by sales in a department versus the hours used in that department. Obviously, sales, customer count, average sale, profit, and CSI are also huge ones. So,
What is CSI?
Customer Service Index, sorry. Yeah.
Well, when you think about it, your wages and salaries, they make up a huge portion, of an organization's expenses. So if you're not measuring, what is your profitability based on how many hours you have of people working, then you're just filling that. We have a time slot, we're just filling it, but is it actually worth it, right? So you need to measure that and bring it back to the overall organization and the vision.
Well, we
same. Oh, right, you were same organization. Yep.
I just realized too, we use a system called Bamboo HR, which is like
I'm very familiar. Yeah.
literally saved me about 18 spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So a lot of these, like, seriously, you like your staff log in and request time off. It's all tracked in there. You don't need any of that. So that, like, in regards to those kinds of KPIs are like all done for me. I can just go pull a report and see whatever I want. But we are in a really terrible position right now. I had a girl quit in June. I'm not replacing her till girl starts next month. I just had a girl quit on Thursday, and we are only 15. So when you have that small of a team, we have no redundancy. So when someone's gone, there's a hole. So being the wife of the owner, we fill every hole. So I've been doing a lot of this stuff because of the last 3 months I've been also our project manager. So I have a list of things that I got ideas from you guys of like things I want to track, but until I fill all my holes, I'm gonna do it.
You're wearing a lot of hats.
What are realistic?
Yeah.
You're being realistic.
We spent the entire, like, the girl that quit on Thursday, luckily it's for a really good reason or whatever, but we're like, oh, we're gonna hire these 2 people instead because we don't know if we want to replace her, and we spent the whole weekend discussing this, and then we were like, no, we're just gonna replace her and only hire the one person. So like I feel like we're doing this strategic stuff, like we're actually thinking. We didn't just say, well, we're gonna replace her. We actually were like, we're not going to, and then we talked for 2 days and realized we are going to. So I'm glad that we're kind of more in that area. But yeah, having our holes is really impacting getting things accomplished.
Yeah. And, I've worked with Bamboo HR, and I agree. It's a really valuable tool just from the reporting aspect of it, because this is what I find a lot of times people when you're performing some of the HR function, you've got 18 different spreadsheets that you have to manually update, right? And so something like, an HRIS system like that is great for small businesses, but you have to update it continually or it updates itself. So all the reporting is already done for you. You're right, a click of the button and it's great. Yeah. Okay. So just up here, we've got some examples of some commonly used KPIs in the HR realm. So we've got our employee turnover rate, reason for termination of employment. So I don't know if you guys do exit interviews, but that can also be a very powerful tool in your organization to determine, why people are leaving. And like I said, is it compensation? Is it, management? Is it, where are some of the gaps in your organization? And so getting that feedback can be really valuable. Employee satisfaction or employee engagement, it can be measured, definitely. Absenteeism, training return on investment, cycle time from request to delivery. So in addition to these, like I said, we've got a handout for you in your toolkit there, so you can read over that. And it just provides you guidance on how to choose which indicators you should be using to, measure within your organization. Okay. So how can we ensure that we have the strategic advantage? So basically, when you walk away today, how can you ensure that you will have the seat at that poker table, right? That you're going to be that strategic thinker, that the ideas and things that you have that you can bring forth are going to add value to the organization. So understanding business and strategy, know how you can impact the strategy, bringing measures and quantifying the effect on the bottom line, because the bottom line definitely matters, right? Know what keeps the CEO and the VPs and managers awake at night or chatting on the weekends. Speak to risk management and look for opportunities and ways that you can add value. And with that brings the presentation to a close. So thank you very much for participating and listening and having me here today. Appreciate it.